Welcome back to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. The Indy cars and drivers hit the streets of downtown Detroit next week for the city's annual Grand Prix. But first, they're making an important pit stop. This weekend's running of perhaps the most famous auto race in the world, the Indianapolis 500. And this year's Indy 500 starts under a shadow of controversy, cast by a team headquartered in Metro Detroit. Legendary team owner Roger Penske has won more times at Indy than any other racer. Yet, for the second consecutive year, Team Penske is accused of violating the rules regarding car parts and performance. In essence, cheating the competition. Penske's responded by firing the entire senior management of his IndyCar team, while the series has pushed his cars to the back of the starting field, penalizing its best-known race team just before the start of its marquee event. Joining us to discuss this situation are two journalists who regularly cover motor racing, WDET's own Alex McLenon and Quinn Klinefelter. Alex, Quinn, welcome back to the Metro.
Thank you,
Thank
Robin.
you.
So, Alex, let's start with you. Just what is the problem with Penske's cars that has led to all this?
Okay, so there is a part on the car called an attenuator. If you ever see a picture of an Indy car, if you look at one either from the back or the side, there's this black box under the rear wing, and it's basically a safety device. It's designed so that if the car spins or gets hit from behind, it absorbs impact. Everything on a race car is designed to absorb impact to keep the driver safe, right? So to do that, or part of how that part works, is that the attenuator is two pieces connected together, and where they connect together, there's a seam. Now, Indy cars go 230 miles an hour at Indianapolis. They're extremely sensitive to airflow, so you want the car to be as smooth as possible. But you're not allowed to modify parts like that on the cars because they are safety devices. So what Penske was caught doing was that two of their cars had that seam on the attenuator filled in to make it as smooth as possible. And they've been practicing on track for more than a week, and there was multiple days of qualifying this weekend. That issue wasn't caught until Sunday, which people weren't happy about because everyone suspected it had been on there. Teams had seen it before on the cars and alerted officiating to it, and nothing was done about it. And in fact, Penske won the Indy 500 last year, and the car that won last year is in the museum at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And once people started looking for this illegal part on the back of the car, which is very visible to the eye, you could walk right into the museum and see that last year's race-winning car also had the illegal part on it, and nothing was done about it.
Wow.
Which is causing a lot of problems and raising a lot of questions about the officiating, too, because Penske owns Team Penske. Penske owns the IndyCar series, and all the officiating is done in-house by Team Penske. So the teams have been reporting this issue. There's a new president at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Doug Bowles. He says that all of that was news to him.
I have had teams tell me since that they have photos of cars, not just Penske cars, other cars with things on cars that are not within the rules. And I've asked them why no one has sent anything to me or ever said anything to me about that. So I have never heard that. I know it's around the paddock, but I've never heard the news. If somebody had told me that was the case, I would have made sure we paid attention to that. I can only make a decision on what I know. And I can only encourage people, if there are photos of cars with things illegal on them, they need to tell me. And then I can address it. But I can't address something that happened last year when I wasn't even in this job. And I can't address something that happened on Saturday if nobody had the guts to come and tell me it was going on Saturday.
So there's that, but this isn't the only time that something like this has happened. 13 months ago, Team Penske was caught mapping a button on their steering wheels to basically give the cars more power when they weren't supposed to have it. And just like this time where this had been happening and then it wasn't caught until a later date, last season, they won the first race of the year, and then when they went to the second round in tech inspection before that race, the officials were like, oh, wait, this is mapped incorrectly, and you guys were cheating in the first race, and they disqualified the cars from that race, too. So that happened, and then you could look back to even the 2023 Indy 500, where there was a controversial finish at the end of the race. There was a late race accident. A Team Penske car was in second, and basically they broke procedure to fit one more lap into the race, and at the point where everyone knew the leader was always a sitting duck on the restart that year, and Team Penske won that race too. So there's been a number of incidents now where it isn't like this has just happened once. There's a pattern that's getting established here. And again, if it was any other team, it would be different. But Penske owns the series and the officiating, and this is what's happening.
Quinn, I want to bring you into the conversation to talk a little bit more about that, about why it's so problematic, why it looks so bad for this to be Team Penske that is at the center of this controversy and this pattern.
Well, as Alex was saying, Penske not only owns his IndyCar team, which is one of many that he owns, but he owns the IndyCar series itself, and he actually owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway track. It's, a different setup than you really find in any other form of sporting or many businesses. I mean, it's very much like the Detroit Lions if they owned the NFL and the Super Bowl and kept playing. All at the same time.
That's a very good analogy there. Thanks, Quinn.
And when Penske bought the series and the track about 5 years ago, the other owners said publicly that he was the one person that they thought they could trust to run the series and still compete in it. He vowed to not take an active role in running his IndyCar team. He was going to leave that to his lieutenants while he was in charge of the series as a whole. Penske's always had a sterling reputation for winning. His cars have won 20 Indy 500s, far more than any other team. And many drivers have told me over the years that if they had a chance to go to Penske, they would do it because the operation has this reputation for excellence. Penske himself has told me how much he loves Indy in particular as an event. He said his dad used to take him there when he was a boy, that it has a really special place in his heart. Now it's got a very special place in his pocketbook because he's pumped a lot of money into fixing up the Indy Speedway. And he guided it through the height of the pandemic when it was kind of rough sailing. So this current situation is problematic on a number of levels. It left Doug Bowles, the president of the Speedway, to have to inform his boss, who is Penske, that he's being penalized for violating the rules of the series that he actually owns and set up the rules for. Bowles says he knows it looks bad from the outside, but he also says he believes that Roger Penske himself was not aware of the decisions that were made by his race team that led to violating IndyCar's rules.
I don't think Roger Penske understands some of the things that might be going on. And I get the optics challenge, and it's definitely something we should think about. A lot of these challenges, I think, while they roll up to Roger at the end of the day, I think they're certainly below him, and there are things that happen that don't ever get to Roger. I can tell you that Roger Penske would not condone this. In fact, I had a chance to talk to Roger, and I can tell that this is devastating to him. Nothing means more to Roger Penske than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indianapolis 500. He certainly loves racing across the board, and this is something that I think he's going to have to address. And as far as the series goes, we are open to looking at wherever we are.
Quinn, is this like a Lance Armstrong moment? That is, here's a team that was doing amazing, winning again and again and again, only we later find out that they were cheating the whole dang time.
Not exactly, because at least I don't think, because it was about 5 years ago that Penske took charge of the series and of the track and everything else. He was winning all the time before that. And it was something that everybody wanted to go to because he had this sterling reputation. To not have that now, in fact, that's one of the things I think that would really, he had said, bugs him, that he feels it in his gut, that this kind of a situation happened underneath him, supposedly. And that's one of the questions, though, I guess, that's along with all the other drivers. Does he really have any sense that this was going on? Was he aware or was he not?
Alex, back to you. What steps are Penske and IndyCar taking to address all this? And how's the whole situation playing out with other teams and drivers?
So Penske, and I do probably agree with the thought that Roger likely didn't know about this because he isn't completely involved with the day-to-day operations at his team anymore, but it is still his team. He has... Well, the cars that were found in violation with the illegal attenuators have been moved to the back of the field for the start of the race. But the more nuclear option was that Penske came out yesterday and he fired all of the senior management on the IndyCar team, which is a really big deal because it was Tim Cendric, Ron Rzuski, and Kyle Moyer. Those are the three guys who run each of the three cars individually. That Penske enters, and they are the most senior management within that operation. Tim Cendric specifically has been there for more than 2 decades, and I mean, Roger Penske is 88 years old, and he's been around for a long time, and Tim Cendric is the guy that everyone assumes would take over from Penske when that time comes in the not-too-distant future at this point. In fact, Tim Cendric's son is actually a driver who runs for Penske in NASCAR, so who knows if he'll have a ride next year. But they were all fired. So not only is Penske going into the Indy 500 without any of their senior leadership, but presumably the succession plan for Penske is also gone now. But so that was probably about the strongest response they could do this week going into the race, and credit to them, they did that. But the officiating questions are still there and very valid because the teams have said that they've seen this for a while and why was nothing done about it. And IndyCar hasn't expressed a super amount of interest in going back and doing things like saying, hey, if the car was illegal last year, we should change the result of that race, which would be pretty long after the fact, but not completely unprecedented in Indy 500 history. But the teams aren't happy about it. The drivers aren't happy about it. Graham Rahal is a driver in IndyCar. For one, he is one of many drivers that's kind of echoing the same thing. He told Indianapolis TV station WIS TV that there may be a conflict of interest between Roger Penske and the IndyCar series and Team Penske and the race operation.
They did it last year, they got caught. They did it again this year, they got caught. But apparently, if you look back at the photos from last year's race-winning car, this race-winning car last year had these same modifications, so it was illegal. That's a concern, right? There is a pattern to this, and I think that's what bothers most people because we're all competitors, we're all here fighting. They're already the biggest and most powerful team. They don't need to do that. It's silly to do it. But ultimately, they chose to do it. They're going to pay the price, at least with 2 of their cars on Sunday. And I'm sure they'll be able to motor right through, though, to be honest with you.
This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. We're talking about the Grand Prix race, which is coming to Detroit next week. And we're discussing a cheating scandal, which has hit the legendary Penske team. And here discussing it now is WDET's Alex McLennan and Quinn Klinefelter. Quinn, we're heading now for the so-called greatest spectacle in racing, the Indy 500. Do you think this controversy with Penske will tarnish the race itself?
Well, it'll be one of the overall storylines for sure. It's going to be something that they're going to want to try to play down, if at all possible. Fox has gotten the broadcast rights for the first time now for the Indy 500, and they're really trying to make it as much of the greatest spectacle in racing as possible. So they are not going to want to play this up if they can help it. And the Indy 500 always has lots of compelling angles. I mean, this year is no different in that respect. It's still the largest single-day spectator sporting event in the world. It draws hundreds of thousands of fans to its grandstands and infield. They just reported the grandstands have completely sold out this year. And this year, for the first time in decades, there's a rookie driver who qualified in pole position and is going to lead the field of 33 cars to the start of the race. They're using a new hybrid type of engine, which makes the cars heavier, but it can give it an extra boost of horsepower, depending on when a driver uses it. So that will give another extra aspect to when somebody goes faster or slower. And the competition's never been closer, except maybe for one driver who Alex likes, maybe because of the first name.
It's a good first name.
There you go. Alex Palou. He has dominated the start of this IndyCar season. He's winning, he's won 4 out of 5 races. He could possibly sail to a win at the 500 too. And as Graham Rahal noted, Penske's cars are very fast. I mean, conceivably, they could pose a threat to win, even when 2 of them are starting from the very back of the field. But the Penske violations are going to be a significant story because they call into question the integrity of his team and, in a lot of ways, the integrity of the sport itself. Penske has said that he needs to be more diligent, but he also says that he can, quote, look in the mirror and know that he's done the right thing. Again, IndyCar president Doug Bowles says that the trick is going to be to get everyone involved, the drivers, the sponsors, even fans, to believe Penske.
The momentum of the Indianapolis 500 is still going to continue to be there. The number of text messages and notes I'm getting from fans on how great the weekend was and how excited they are for the Indianapolis 500, it's still there. The challenge right now is getting our paddock to feel comfortable that it's still there. We need our biggest stakeholders, the people that are investing in our sport, to believe that it's a level playing field and that they have every chance that anybody else does to win the Indianapolis 500 so that we're all singing from the same songbook.
Alex, Penske wants this situation contained, obviously, before the start of the Indy 500 on Sunday. Do you think he's done enough to put it to rest, at least for now?
To get through the weekend, probably. There's going to be serious questions about the officiating, and something else that they'll be concerned about is that there are 2 engine providers in IndyCar, Chevrolet and Honda. Chevy provides engines to Team Penske, and Honda has apparently been very concerned about the conflict of interest for a while, and they've been wanting separation of church and state when it comes to the officiating. And that's something that the series is going to have to be looking at going forward. So for now, yeah, I think they've done enough to get through the Indy 500 weekend. I think they've reacted about as strongly as possible. But as we get, into the Detroit race and the races after that, there's going to have to be some serious looking into how this officiating is done. And IndyCar, frankly, needs to be a lot more transparent with addressing the concerns that the teams had, because they can say that they just found it on Sunday last week, but I mean, frankly, we all know that isn't true. And wherever the break in the chain is, they got to figure out where that is and be transparent about fixing the officiating problems. And
they're going to want to really get it tied up with a good bow when they get here in Detroit, because, as he says, Chevy is one of the big sponsors, and this is going to be the home race for Chevy.
We'll have to see how it plays out this weekend at Indy and next week here in Detroit. WDET's Quinn Klinefelter and Alex McLenon, thanks so much for your reporting.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Coming up, the wizard, Jeff Mills, is a homegrown techno pioneer. He spoke with WDET's Ryan Patrick Cooper yesterday ahead of his performance at this year's Movement Festival happening this weekend. We'll listen to that next. We'll be right back here on the Metro. Stay with us.